Hello, mental workers, and welcome back to the podcast. If you've clicked listen to this episode, you're in one of two camps. You're either curious about recording sessions and what that might involve for you, or you've been told you have to record sessions and you're wondering, how the hell do I do that? This episode will go through both of those scenarios, and by the end of it, you should have a good idea about why you would want to put yourself through this hell and how you would go about it. In answer to the first question of why would you want to record sessions? Well, there's a few good reasons. Firstly, you have to as part of our psychology trainings. So no matter which pathway you go through the general registration, you're going to have to record some sessions. In this circumstance, it's so that you can demonstrate competence to your supervisors and they can sign you off as having demonstrated the basic competencies required to become a generally registered psychologist. In other circumstances, like the one that I'm in, you're training in a specific therapy model that also requires filming sessions. I'm participating in an accredited schema therapy program to become an accredited schema therapist, and I'm required to video record 3 sessions. 2 go to my supervisor, and then 1 scarily goes to an external supervisor who marks me against some pretty thorough criteria. There's also another reason why we would want to do it though, and that's just to become a better therapist in general. So did you know? A study conducted in 2015 by Daryl Chow found that out of all the activities a therapist could undertake to become a better therapist, such as getting supervision, reviewing challenging cases alone, attending training workshops, all the things we think we need to do to be a better therapist, it wasn't any of those things that was related to actual improved client outcomes. It was, drumroll please, reviewing therapy recordings alone. It's a bit of a devastating finding because it's like, oh crap, well, it actually is really good, is it? So it's like, I better get on it. It's like, I wish just doing training workshops alone was related to better therapy outcomes, but unfortunately not. So here's the thing. We are so resistant to recording therapy sessions, despite this research showing that it's really good for therapy outcomes. And it's mostly us, and we come up with all sorts of mind chatter against the idea of recording sessions. We're like, oh, I hate seeing myself on video. I hate hearing my voice. The clients won't be comfortable with it. What about their privacy? And these are concerns. I'm not saying that they are not legit concerns. They're just barriers to, I guess, doing the thing that we need to do. But look at it like this. Well, there's 2 things here. Firstly, the person who has a problem with recording the sessions, mostly it isn't our clients, it's us. A study in 2016 by Briggie and their colleagues found that less than a third expressed discomfort at recording sessions, less than a third of clients. And most clients had no objections to recording sessions. They were like, whatever, yep, I'll give it a go. So it's mostly us that is the limiting factor. And while we may feel self-conscious initially, we pretty soon get used to hearing our own voice or watching yourself on video. I know when I've recorded sessions and looked at myself, I'm like, oh God, I hate this. But honestly, like by the end of the recording, I'm like, okay, yes, it's me. I've lived with myself my whole life. I get it. That's me. That's fine. Same with voice. I used to hate listening to my voice. It's still a bit cringe, but it's the voice. It's what I got. Not much I can do about it. Acceptance is the way to go here, people. Another reason to really get into recordings is, look, there are things that we know we don't know. And then there's this area of things we don't know that we don't know we don't know, if that makes sense. I hope it does. But pretty much there are things outside of our awareness, which we have no idea that we're doing wrong. And videos are a really good way of getting to that area. For example, once I was reviewing my videotape and I was really cheery and chirpy and I was like, yes, let's go ahead with this session. And I completely missed the change in affect in my client. They looked very different and they looked a bit crestfallen. And here I was, chipper and chirpy. And it was a moment that I was completely outside of my awareness. And from that, I learned that I really need to make sure that I'm remaining consistently attuned with my clients rather than looking at things on my iPad. So I'll get up activities to work on or just looking at my notes while I'm writing. You can miss really crucial things in your client. And that was a really valuable learning experience that I wouldn't have been able to get merely by relaying the session to my supervisor. And when you think about it like this, like if you were a tennis player and you wanted to get better at your tennis, you wouldn't go to your coach and be like, oh, hey, I played this game of tennis and I tried doing this and demonstrating the action, but it didn't quite go as well as I hoped. So I did this. They'd just be like, that doesn't make sense. Just let me see the game. Like, let me watch you play. I don't want this secondhand retelling. I want to actually see you in action. The same goes for therapy. We can relay the ups and the downs and what we thought we did well and what we thought didn't go so well. But actually seeing it in practice is just the easiest and most accurate way, which is not distorted or biased by our own perceptions of ourselves and the situation. So we can get the best feedback about what's happening and what we need to do next to improve. Hopefully, you are now convinced that even if you are required to record sessions, it's really good to do so. For all therapists. Like sometimes therapists, they say, oh, I used to do that when I was a few years out, but now I don't. If you want to become a better therapist, this is the way to do it. So let's have a look at the practical steps you need to take to record sessions. There are two approaches that you can take to recording sessions. You can either select clients to record, or the other approach is record everything and then get permission from clients at the outset to record everything to improve service delivery. So you could attach your session recording form to your intake paperwork and then explain at session 1 that you record everything with client's permission to improve service delivery. That it's a little bit different at your practice. You know, it isn't standard practice, but really it should be. And that you're going to really dedicate yourself to improving service delivery. I've taken the other approach of selecting clients to record because I do schema therapy with most of my clients, but not all of them. And so I've selected the ones that I think might be best suited to demonstrating skills that I need to pass my schema accreditation. Once you've selected clients to record or you've taken the approach of recording everything, is asking clients to record a session. You can do this in 2 ways. You can either do it at the start of a session before the recorded session. So you can say, hey, I'm thinking of recording one of our sessions. And what do you think about it? Explain to them that you'd like to do it to improve service delivery, or you're doing it as part of your training program. And to say that you'll send the consent form to them by email so that they can have a read, they can ask you any questions, and you'll ask them at the start of next session if they would like to go ahead with recording. You can also ask clients to record by email. I've done this and it's been very short. So I've sent out a bulk email to all my clients and said, I'm participating in a training program. I would like a few volunteers to record sessions with. Anyone can do it and I'll adapt a schema therapy session for you. If you'd like to know more about schema therapy, I've attached some information about it and just a heads up about what the session is likely to involve. If you would like to be involved, please email me back. And I've actually gotten a lot of volunteers this way. It's been pretty good. And that fits in with the research, which shows that clients don't actually mind being recorded, most of them. So congrats, you've asked your clients and you've successfully got some clients who have said, yes, you can record my session. Fantastic. You have to get formal permission to record. So this is written informed consent. Now I've got a form that I have laboured over and revised and spent several hours revising, which goes through all the nitty-gritty details of what clients need to know about you recording their session. The sections I've got is why I'm recording, how the recording will be used, confidentiality of the recording, how it's voluntary to give consent, the limits to confidentiality, how I'll record it, how I'll set up the recording devices, and whether they can record the session as well. I've got in my form that, yes, they can record the session, but only if I provide consent, and that they must agree to not copy, share, or distribute the recording with everyone. If they wish to record the session and I consent, I will also record the session on my personal device for record keeping. And that's just so in case I need to go back and review and the client says, you said this, but it's on their recording, or they choose to share it with somebody else and it's distorted or cut. And then I've got the original uncut version. So what I do with my consent form is I send it to them in an email. I've got it set up in my practice management software that they can sign it electronically, and then it automatically comes to me. You could also print it out and get them to sign it in the session. With my form, I've got it available on the Patreon for $2. So if you just want to sign up to the Patreon for like a month and pay $2 and then access the form, you can download it from there, and then you can unsubscribe if you like, or you can keep on. Patreon subscribers, they get to support the podcast and make sure it keeps them going. Next step, we've got to set up the tech to record the session. This is where a lot of folks fall down, but it's actually really easy, like super easy. Okay, you've got 3 ways you can do it. You can use your laptop, an iPad, or your phone. If you choose the laptop option, you can use the camera app in your laptop. So just search your apps and there will be a camera app where you can film. Or you can use Zoom. If you've got Zoom, you set up a meeting with yourself and then you record the meeting. Super easy. And then it's saved in Zoom. You can use an iPad, again, use the camera app and then you can film it. Or you can use your phone, providing it has enough storage. So make sure that your SD card has enough storage to begin with. And you can also use a phone holder. You can grab a phone holder for like $5-10 from Officeworks, and then it can hold your phone in any position. With the laptop and iPad, I usually position them away from the couches that I'm sitting on with the client, and I just put it like on a bookshelf near us, or sometimes I put it on the table. The important thing is that it's got both me and the client in the picture. I almost always have a backup as well, just in case the filming doesn't go according to plan. And the backup that I have is my phone. So I've got the Otter app installed on my phone. It's a free audio recording and transcribing app, but you could also just have voice recordings open if you've got an iPhone, or your default audio recording app. Now, where should you store the video? I store mine on OneDrive. So this is a cloud storage system, and I'd recommend that everyone has cloud storage. It means that you don't lose anything, so you're not reliant if your computer goes missing, that you've lost everything. It's brilliant. And then you don't have to keep on backing it up to hard drives or flash drives to be able to make sure that all your stuff is safe and secure. The reason I went with OneDrive was because their servers are located in Australia, which meets the Australian privacy principles. So those are the things that you need to comply with under the Privacy Act to keep data safe and secure. And one of those provisions is having access to your data, and you can do that if the servers are located in Australia. It's also really good to have cloud storage because you can share video so much easier. With OneDrive, you right-click on the recording and you create a share link. And then you copy paste that share link to your supervisor and pop that in the email, and boom, they have access to it. Great. So once you've recorded your session with the client, you want to confirm consent at the end of that session. It's just a double check. So you want to say to the client, now that we've recorded the session and you've heard everything that you said in this session, is it still okay if I share it with my supervisor and I also watch it myself? I just think it's nice and polite and respectful of the client because they might not have been aware of what they plan to talk about during that session. Now, here's the fun part. Your supervisor and yourself are going to watch the video. Dun, dun, dun. You want to book a time with your supervisor to go through it. Be aware that you might be paying for 2 hours of supervision. Time for the supervisor to watch the video in their own time, and time giving you feedback with you in supervision. Alternatively, you could pick out a few areas that you want to review in session with your supervisor, and then that's only 1 hour of supervision. So you might say, I'm really interested in this 10-minute portion. Then you can review that in session and get feedback straight away. You can also choose to review the video yourself. If you do this, I would highly recommend rating yourself against some criteria or having a goal at the outset for what you're looking for, because then you are not indiscriminately judging yourself based on everything. So you might want to have a look at what your ratio of, say, asking questions is to making statements. You might also want to look at how much you are talking versus how much the client is talking. You may also wish to look out for how much self-disclosure you use. Anything that you wish to work on or you're just curious about is really good to have in the back of your mind when you're watching the video. For me, because I'm doing the Schema Therapy accreditation, I've got the Schema Therapy competency scale in front of me, and I'm just giving myself some marks about what I think I've demonstrated and what I haven't. There's a lot to go through on that form, and so it's pretty obvious to me like what I haven't covered and what I have. For example, I might not label the schema. That's pretty obvious for me. Now, when you go through it with your supervisor, just be aware that it's a bit cringy. At least that's my experience. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that. There's so many things you just don't realize you do, and so many quirks that you have which you don't realize. For example, when I started this podcast, I just did it then. I have a lot of filler words that are just habit, which is super annoying. So I say the word actually a lot. I say the word awesome a lot. In therapy, it translates to things like, does that make sense? I say that a lot in therapy. And that usually comes from an insecurity that I'm actually getting across what I want to get across. But it's really interesting to notice if you can approach it from a place of curiosity rather than really being harsh on yourself. Like, keep the critic out of the frame when you are watching videos. The final step in this whole process is to integrate your learnings as soon as possible in future sessions. I find that this is a really helpful way of going about it, because then what you're doing is you're not dwelling on how terrible you are as a therapist and questioning your whole existence and the career pathway you've chose. Rather, you're being like, oh, goody, there are some things here that I can integrate and learn from. And you can feel really good about yourself having implemented those learnings almost straight away. The way you can do this with clients is you can literally say to them, hey, I'm trying something new out today that I've learned recently. Is it okay if we give it a go? 9 times out of 10, they will be like, yeah, sure. Or you could say to them, I'm trying something new out today. I think it can help. It's just this new activity that I think we can do in this way. Would you be willing to give it a go? Finally, you can be proud of your achievement and your improvement. You just recorded a session and went through the whole process. Nice. So I think that's everything I wanted to cover with recording sessions. I hope this conveys to you why it's good to do it, why it's important, and hopefully overcomes some barriers for you. Just FYI, I don't find this process easy. I've procrastinated for about 6 months recording my final schema therapy video after telling my supervisor, yeah, I do it. And I finally bit the bullet and recorded some sessions only a few weeks ago. So I get the procrastination. I get not wanting to do it. It's just so icky, but it's a bit of exposure therapy for us, right? And the more we do it, the easier it becomes. And I know this is just so hard taking that first step. But we got this, guys. We got to do it. We got to get through it. It's how we become better therapists. And it's just really helpful. Okay, take care, listeners. I hope this helped and have a good one. Bye.